Hello, friends and family. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another video on the David C's Movie Journals movie review channel. Let me get this mic nice and close like that. There we go. Hopefully the fan isn't making too much of a racket. It's gotten kind of hot here in South Mississippi, I can tell you that. Um, I'm kind of annoyed right now. First of all, hope you're doing well, whoever and everybody who might happen upon this video and clicks on it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give my review of The Forge 2024 film. We'll get into it in just a second, but first, I've just got to stress how annoying it is that I'm having to backtrack. It was a week ago that I saw the film. The story is this: my Aunt Marianne, who she wanted to support this movie. That's all I can say. And I thought I saw maybe a trailer, but probably not. But I just saw that movie poster with the sword and the different people looking this and that away, and different actors and actresses in the movie. And I just, from the general vibe that I had gotten about the film up to that point, I just had the impression that it was just going to be like a pure flicks kind of, not really a, what do you call it again? Hallmark card movie, Hallmark movie or something like that, a family movie with religious overtones, undertones, however you say it, and something that maybe would be decent, but that I wouldn't want to make it a movie theater movie that I would want to make sure that I could catch while it was in the theater. But leave it to life and just thinking about things to really prey upon your mind. Sometimes I was thinking, you know what? Sometimes when I have my 34-hour break from truck driving and I'm home for Sunday, so that I can go to worship services and just chill at my home before I got to go back over the road for another week. I think to myself, you know what? Sometimes a week or two or three goes by when I don't see my Aunt Marianne, and she lives right across the way from us, very close. Not a Yeah, she's a next door neighbor. That's how close the house is where she lives. And I just thought, you know what? I'll use this as an opportunity just to help Aunt May support this movie, which I'm glad I did because I thoroughly enjoyed the film, and I'll talk all about it in just a second. But that's the story. That's how I saw this. It's not because I wanted to make sure I saw it at the movie theater because it's like Dune or Dune 2 and it's some epic that I just got to see. No, that's the story. And I'm glad that's the story because, in a way, it's a better story than trying to make sure that I catch a flick at the movie theater and just enjoy something epic on the big screen. So, with that said, I'm going to go to the IMDb page for The Forge and read a few little facts before I begin into what I saw. Director Alex Kendrick, writers Alex Kendrick and Stephen Kendrick. These fellows are at the end of the film. Literally, the credits are barely rolling when the music slightly fades, and then they come on, and I'm like, "Oh, really? You guys are, you guys are gonna crank up with saying thank you so much for watching our movie right then, right off the get go." At least they did it after and not before the movie, so at least there's that. And just saying thank you so much for supporting this process of, I forgot what it's even called. That's how out of it I am. This process of uh, buying movie tickets for other people who maybe are not able to go catch a movie. Very good thing. Very good thing. I think there have been a few, and more movies like that are in the process of being rolled out that way. If you can't, oh yeah, yeah. What was the movie? Come on, David. It was the biggest one of these ever, where people were buying tickets for other people. Come on, I know this. Jim Caviezel in the human trafficking thing. I can't believe I'm having to look this up, but now that I've said that, I've got to. I'm gonna kick myself in a second. The Sound of Freedom. That was a huge example of that. Buying tickets for other people who maybe can't get a ticket to help encourage other people, and so on and so forth. Paying someone's uh, ticket. Is It's really great, and this was another example of that. And let me just really just relax and enjoy this review, because while I might have a slight gripe or two about the movie, just as a movie, not about the messaging per se or anything like that, but just to, because that's what this movie will do for you. It'll just make you go, good stuff, good stuff. Let me read a few more little facts as I get more and more into it. Stars Aspen Kennedy, Cameron Arnett, Karen Abercrombie. Let me look at the photos of the cast. Here we go. Aspen Kennedy. I have never seen him before that I can recall, but he was quite good. He's an actor who more than once was able to make himself cry. And I think the only people I ever have seen in movies, it seems like I've seen his mother, the actress who played his mother, somewhere. I can't. I can't even find a good photo of her. Priscilla Sure as Elizabeth Jordan. Maybe I've seen T.C. Stallings as Tony Jordan somewhere. Maybe Tommy Woodard. In fact, let me look these people up and see if I can. Oh well, I'm gonna get sidetracked if I go too far down that rabbit hole. Uh, I just have a feeling that several of these actresses are in this particular genre where they make these kinds of films, and that's perfectly all right. I enjoy. I just want to make sure even though I'm going to have a gripe or two in just a second, as I slowly go through the whole movie, I just want to say that I enjoyed the movie very much, and I'm glad I watched it. Now, from the beginning, I went in thinking, what is this going to be? Is it going to be a Hallmark movie, and I'm going to sit here and my church closed, no less, because we went right from worship services over to the movie theater almost right after, and my aunt had somehow managed to get my uncle Joe, who I never would have imagined would have come along to watch this particular movie. And now I have burnt in my brain the memory of being up in the top rows, and then he comes along. He's 6'5", a giant man. These are mostly religious people in this movie theater, I'm pretty sure, and I have the memory now of looking up at him as he's walking in front of me, because we were pretty good about getting only in our designated. I don't have my ticket with me. Our designated seats for the movie theater. Yeah, I do have it after all. I was supposed to be in seat R4, and I have this memory now of looking up at him, and him looking at the way my mom had done the Coke. They got a popcorn and Coke and a pretzel. What we're gonna eat while we watch the movie start. This memory burnt in my brain now. Him looking down at me, and I'm looking up at him. This theater is dark and everything, and him saying, "1 cup and 3 straws. You've got to be shitting me." I kid you not. I kid you not. And I couldn't help it. It was an involuntary thing. I shouldn't have laughed because he's cussing, and shouldn't laugh at that. But I'm looking at the cup. I'm like, there are 3 straws coming out of this. That's the way they put 3 straws in the cup of the Coke. So he goes on by me, and I'm thinking he said that loud enough for probably all these people in here to hear that. You've got to be kidding me. This giant man looking down at me is like, 1 cup and 3 straws. Maybe I'm just easily amused, but that had me going. And something else that my uncle said during the course of our movie going experience also is going to be burnt in my brain, and I'll always remember him saying that if I ever think of this movie, The Forge, 2024. Okay, so that it's already kind of it's already a treat for me, even before the movie started. Apart from what the movie actually turned out to be, to have a sudden movie going experience, this will probably never happen again in my life. I'm serious, and that's why I was thinking that. I was like, Uncle Joe, Uncle Joe. And he probably came to drive her and keep an. She's in her mid-70s, my Aunt Marianne, and so just want to take care of each other and make sure we get back and forth to the big city. At least Mobile, Alabama is big to us. We live out here in the woods, even though I've been to Mobile 1,000 times, 2,000 times, I don't know. And now I work on the edge of Mobile and my trucking company in Dauphin Island. But it was just a surreal thing. Even before we went into the movie theater, or as we were in the movie theater, we had our cokes and we're waiting on them. And me and my sister, she's older than me, but still much younger than our mother and her brother and sister, who are now, all of a sudden we're watching a movie together on this Sunday. It was just going to be Aunt Marianne, but now it's my Uncle Joe. It was a treat. It was a big treat for me, and I want to make sure I say that as part of this review. It's like there's 5 of us now, and Uncle Joe, he's going to watch this movie. Does he know what it is? Anyway, I think if I could actually ask him about it, because we all kind of went our separate ways as we came out and we're making our way back to the car, ready to uh, get on back to the house, I think he'd say he enjoyed it. And again, I'll get to that funny moment that happened as this review goes, because I'm going to take my time with this. Like I said, this is almost like a treat in itself, talking about this movie, because I had a good time with it, and I love that. Anytime I can go to the movie theaters, and whether the movie is good or not, if the theater going experience was good, then in a way that has, even if the movie turned out to be bad, and not that this one did, but just in general, if a movie turns out to be bad, if you had a good time at the theater, that's something in itself. Okay, so there we go. All of a sudden, there's 5 of us in there, up toward the top of the stadium seating that they have in most every movie theater now, and it's a lot of Hallmark, probably faith-based, faith initiative stuff, those kinds of movies, and rated PG-13 type movies being advertised. And the movie starts, and what was the first thing? What is the first thing that we see? Of course, it's Aspen Kennedy. It's Isaiah, and I'm trying to think of what the first thing was. Or maybe it was his mother. Anyway, like I said, I saw the movie a week ago, and so I'm having to backtrack now. But basically, you get the sense right off the bat that she is very a religious lady, and also that her son, who's coming of age now, is I want to get her name right because I'm going to end up saying her name. I want to get her name, not just say his mother, as I go here. And for whatever reason, Priscilla Sure as Elizabeth Jordan. Okay. Seems like I've seen her in a movie somewhere and I just can't remember. But I'm wasting too much time here. You get this sense immediately. She goes to the hair salon, and there's where she has her cohorts, who are all hilarious women, each one of them, and they're all very religious. And it's a kind of a refreshing thing when this lady comes in the hair salon, and they've been talking and working each other into a little frenzy, wanting to pray for her son that he gets on track in life, because he's obviously slipping. That's the whole thing. It's like he's 18, 19 now, and he's on the verge of becoming this shiftless young man. It's like he plays his video games. He loves his gaming. He loves hanging with his boys, playing ball. There's nothing too nefarious as far as him maybe getting into trouble. It's just he's in danger of that is the thing, and that's the kind of thing that is maybe creeping in. It's not really strongly alluded to in the movie, and that's actually one of my gripes. One of my 2 or 3 gripes that I have against the way the story came across on film, because they come in. Let me get it. Let me talk about that one scene first. This lady comes in. She looks at her eyeglasses down. They're almost in a prayer circle. The one lady even swaying back and forth, smiling. It's like, excuse me, is this a hair salon or is this church? Is this the prayer meeting? And then Elizabeth comes in there, comes up to her. It's like, Oh, do you need this both? Do you need uh, a haircut, or do you need prayer or something like that? She's looking at it. It's the funniest thing. She starts crying a little bit, like, I need both. I need I need I need both. And she mentions, I don't know what relative or friend she mentions, but I need prayer for my so and so. And I just thought it was one of several scenes similar to that in the movie that just made you smile and chuckle, because these are all sincere people that you just feel it throughout the film in that hair salon. These 4, 5, 6 ladies that are in there, and of course she talks about her life and about her son. And back to the beginning of the film, he plays his games, he plays his ball. He's not involved in anything particularly vicious or nasty. And again, not that I want that portrayed on the film, but it just would have been nice if there had been something in the movie that would have demonstrated that if if he were to go into anything that would be bad and nefarious, sinful, now that he's a man who's of age, he's a man now, and that's the whole thing. She's like, I cannot pay for the bills for both of us. You are a man, and you're gonna pay me rent. And it's the funniest scene. How many times have you seen that? You've seen it a bunch, and it's hilarious every time when a guy, he's a man, but he's still living under his mother's roof, and he says, I gotta pay rent on my own house. Half the movie theater's cracking up. And again, I'm glad it was so great to be able to see a movie, because after COVID, people were getting all like, "Oh, movie theater is going to be a thing of the past," and I'm like, "Well, that's a bummer. I don't want that to happen." It's great, even if it was stinking Deadpool and Wolverine. I just don't approve of the movie. Made $1 billion. That's pretty much going to guarantee that there's going to be movie theaters are going to be around for a little while longer. But to be able to see this film, and there must have been maybe not 30, but to just have a couple dozen people in that theater. Yeah, there were over there, maybe 30, 40 people in the Forge when we saw it last Sunday at the 1:30 or 1:40 showing. And I keep getting sidetracked with that because it was just such a great experience at the movies. Such a decent film, which is what this was. It was a decent film. I'm not really for some of the messaging, because if I had known this, I might have had a little bit more trepidation, because it's almost like a sermonette movie, man. It's like, I kid you not, when Isaiah meets up with Cameron Arnett's character Joshua Moore, and it gradually unfolds bit by bit of all the things he's done to bring him to where he is, and his sincerity and wanting to serve God and disciple these men, as it's called in the movie. He just gets deeper and deeper into it, and Isaiah is there the whole time as like this. He's soaking it all in, and he's learning so much. And but going back to what I said a minute ago, it's like, I don't want to say it was too decent, because you don't have to actually show bad things to convey that bad things are afoot. That, I mean, the worst uh, ideas that it puts off are the debaucherous life that Isaiah's father has gone down. And as much as he had found out during the course of his adolescence that his father had cheated on his mother, he had left her, and toward the beginning, he showed one of his good friends this. Get this, it's not just a car that his dad was gonna soup up and fix up with him. It was gonna be a great bonding project with him, that he would give his son this nice uh was it a Mustang? Some classic Mustang. Like, really? Not just a car. So my son will have some wheels and get to point A to point B and be able to get out there and get rolling in life. It's this classic car. I'm like, really? That's a bit much, but it is what it is. And it's a great scene when you get to the point in the movie where he has that car and it is brought back to life like a dream mobile. And but let me work up to that. Let me get this gripe out of the way so I won't come back to it again. Young men that age, even if she's a well-to-do lady, his mother, and even if maybe they don't live in a bad neighborhood, it doesn't matter. These sins and temptations that a young man whose body is just fresh out of chemical changes that have changed his mind about some things, and hormones are raging, and he wants to get out there and do whatever. Yeah, he has his buddies and his friends. It's like he was already in a pretty good position in life, as far as none of his friends are into anything that is going to drive him into the ditch as men. Nobody's doing anything criminal. And I thought to myself, something's going to happen here. There's going to be some girl problem where it becomes a dad out of wedlock. There's going to be one of his buddies going to steal a car. So there's going to be something that's actually visceral and shows that you need good mentors in your life, like Joshua Moore, played by Cameron Arnett, to help direct you in the decent way, the godly way, or else you will lose your life, your soul, and your liberty. You might end up in prison if you get involved in things that are just bad, like sinful, criminal stuff. But there was nothing in the movie like that. There was nothing in the movie like that, and that's that. I can't believe I'm griping about that. But like I said, I'm not saying I want it to be some R-rated thing. No, it's just a few. It's just a minute in the movie, a few lines of dialogue, and maybe a scene of somebody in a jail or somebody giving the shifty eye. That's all it takes to convey what needs to be conveyed, or what I think needs to be conveyed. Is like his mom wants him to get off the video games and stop playing ball and get a job. And that's all this is about: becoming a responsible man who is able to get out there and earn an honest living through work. And that's that's I should correct myself. It's about so much more than that as the movie goes on, because by the end of the film, uh, Isaiah has not only achieved that by age 20, not even 21 yet. He's accomplished much more. He's not a boy anymore. He is a truly decent man at the end of this film. And so, again, it was so funny. Like, I gotta pay rent in my own house. Excuse me. His mom's like, it's my house. I pay the rent, and you. I forget the dialogue, but it was great and had everybody chuckling. And I was like, to watch this scene, because how many households have had that little, not even an argument, just that great scene happen in their kitchen, their living room. I gotta pay rent. This is my house, Sonny boy, and it was just great. And he has to learn a lesson or two go as he goes along. When he goes into the little coffee shop, I believe this was the man, Mr. Watson, played by Joseph Curtis Challenger, and he has a daughter. Let me go to all cast and crew, because my mother, after the movie was over, he said, whoever that daughter was, she was beautiful. That's what my mom said, but I can't see. I can't see who that is in the full cast and crew. I'm sure she's got to be somewhere. And anyways, he goes into the coffee shop because he spied her through the window, like putting coffee out or something, raising a window. I forget what. And he's like, he goes in there and starts hitting on this young woman, and with the goofiest, like, she's like, are you here to buy coffee? He's like, no, I'm not really a coffee guy. It's like, well, what are you doing? This is a coffee shop. It was hilarious. His every movement and mannerism just had me like grinning. It's like, you goofy idiot. Like, what are you doing? He ends her dad is like, comes out and is like, are you wanting to buy coffee, sir? It's like, well, if not, I'm going to have to ask you to move along. And he's like, what, you kicking me out? You kicking me out? He put up such a, like, his attitude, confrontational with the guys. Like, I didn't do nothing wrong. You can't just kick somebody out of this place. Like, leave my store. No cussing, no nothing. Just taking a firm hand with him. And just like, you got to get out of here. So, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. ain't coming back either. You can believe that. It was just he's so goofy. Isaiah is so goofy, and with such a goofy attitude of he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything. And this whole journey that you see take place across the film in this how long is the film? Uh 2 hours 4 minutes of him learning something about life, that you can't be so flippant with your time, yourself, and with other people's fortunes, their time. You can't waste people's life. You can't play at you can't just flirt. You can't. There's always a price to be paid here and there. I'm actually watching it. It's muted, and I better keep it muted. But scenes from the film. Oh, I'm glad I'm doing this. This reminds me. He was supposed to. This was like a confidence thing between his mother and him. Can you keep your word or not? I'm gonna let you borrow my car, but you gotta be back at a certain time, or else she's gonna lose her uh, special discount that she gets for some of her beauty care supplies at her salon that she runs. And it's a good movie because I don't think I've ever well, you've seen this stuff before, but not in the context of the religious undertones. Because again, I didn't realize this movie was a sermonette when he's sitting down with Joshua, and he's opening the Bible immediately. I want to tell you something about what the book of Galatians says, and it's just like there were so many scriptural references throughout the film that it was almost it's basically preaching to you through the movie, and I realized that right off the bat. But I'll tell you one thing: they did it in such a way that it was very enjoyable when you as you witness Isaiah go through these things and keep himself under control enough as a young man with hormones raging, attitude problems needing to be adjusted, ignorance about life as he's learning bit by bit, and you actually just watch him. It's a treat. It's a real treat. And when his mother's praying for him, and when he's breaking down in tears in his room, and more than once, I'm like, well, this guy's got some acting chops. He was able to cry and make himself cry, which is good. In this emotional scene about his father in particular, where Joshua's building him up, he hires him, and again, that that was another good scene. It's like right after he left the coffee shop, he goes and applies at the fitness place. What was the name of it? I'm watching half the movie right now. Uh, well, now it's gone on to some other junk. Anyways, I'll just say the fitness place where Joshua uh, owns this fitness company. He just gets the application from the lady, and he goes and he sits down, and Joshua comes in and he's just looking at him. He's looking at him. He goes back to filling his application, and Joshua just very friendly strikes up a little conversation with him, asking him about his life. What's your name? And he realizes, Isaiah, that his attitude is so off that he's being short with him and showing rudeness almost as much as in the coffee shop. That when he realizes that he's the one who owns this place, it's so funny. You're laughing as you're sitting there because you can see it. You can see the next minute of the movie as though you've already seen it. You're like, you know exactly what's going to happen now. It's like, and it does. It happens. He's like, he turns it in and it's like, I thought you were going to apply for a job. I ain't going to get no job now, because he realizes he insulted the company owner. And Joshua's just like, it's like water off a duck's back. He's reading this kid like a book, and he just talks to him. He spends time with him, and in a way, really that's really part of the. It's not just about Isaiah; it's about Joshua's character also. The sheer amount of time and patience that he's investing in just this one person, and you realize as it goes on, what that's all about. The Forge is actually this little tightly knit group of men that started with him discipling this man who had actually, as you come to find it, you know what? In case you haven't seen the movie yet, I'm not even going to get into some of those details because it's an emotional story, 1 point and then 2 point and then 3 point, and you get to watch Isaiah just take it all in as he's learning to keep his emotions in check. He's learning how to show up on time because I forgot to mention that he 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 goes back to his video game uh, playing a little too much. First, he didn't return the car to his mother in time, and that caused her to lose that client's discount that she had been receiving for years, and it's going to cost her more money. And it's all because, oh, you were not playing ball. He was playing ball with his buddies, and he just put his phone down because they had said, "Man, we need a fourth man. You want them to win? You want them to win?" And so he's playing ball with his friends, and he has to leave in the middle of it anyways when he realizes it's after 5:30. So then he's in trouble again. He's been hired to work part time by Joshua, so now he's got a job, and that was such a triumphant thing for him as a young man coming in. He's like, well, he's like having like a almost cocky smile around his mom, like, well, I'm. She's like, what's going on with you? It's so great. The relationship they have and that comes across on the screen is really great. As he's telling him, well, I got a little something, got a little job, and that just thrills her. It just thrills his mother that he's taking on some responsibility, not just sitting in the house playing games and keeping a dirty room. And he when the part of the movie comes where Joshua has instilled so many good points in him and told him and taught him, and this must have happened over the course of weeks as the movie plays over just a couple of hours, that whenever you're late, it costs other people. Because the one guy said, I can't do my job if I'm covering for you. Because he said, this is your key card for the building. This is your way in. Do not lose it. He forgot to bring it. He was running late one morning. He forgot to bring it. And he had to have somebody else let him inside. And yeah, he just tells them so many things. And it's all religious based with scriptural references to Jesus sacrificed, and he wants you to watch out for your fellow. And he's teaching him about living and about being a decent, reasonable, responsible man. Don't be late because you immediately cost others. Work hard while you're here. And then he goes and works full time for him, and he's not late anymore. And again, it's very heavy on some of the biblical messaging that they tried to put into this, and that they did successfully put it into. It's just my only other gripe, I guess, I have is one part in particular where Josh was talking about our sinful nature. And the thing is, that's not really a biblical term. I understand what some people mean by it, but it's also a way some people get the wrong idea, I believe, about our sinful nature, quote unquote. Because even though people sin, they're not born in sin. And the inclination, Joshua tried to explain it. And again, as you're just getting to watch Isaiah just learn things that he's never been, like his mother tried. And he even said himself at the beginning, church is your thing, but this man who is giving him a chance, giving him an opportunity, and giving him all this time and patience and second chances. Because some people will just say, you're late. Well, then you're gone. You're fired. That's not what happened. And so Isaiah realizes how blessed he is. And really, this isn't some. I thought it was going to be more of. I thought he was going to come. The character of Isaiah was going to come from more of a low place in the world and more slapped around, but he was in a fairly good uh, position to begin with, as far as he wasn't in any imminent danger. Whereas, well, maybe it's just my own preconceived notions gone awry, and I was just wrong to think that because I didn't really know anything about the movie going in. But one of the big struggles that he does overcome is learning to forgive. Him learning to forgive, and in particular, forgive his father, is a big thing in this movie. And I'll go ahead and tell you before I forget the part of the movie where you get to where Isaiah's been welcomed into the forge, and he's like he become a Christian. Uh, Joshua says when Isaiah is like accept Jesus into his heart, and Joshua says, well, first things first, you should be baptized. And at one point, you do see how him being immersed, baptized, but it wasn't like an imminent thing. It was just like we'll do that when we get around to it. Whenever we have a convenient time, we'll do that. But really, baptism, if you understand, if you're convicted that you need to be baptized for the remission of your sins, that needs to be priority number one. Let's go ahead and do that right now. The movie does show him being baptized, and he's helping out. He's volunteering more of his time. He's helping on these charity events. And the thing is, the company that he works for, Joshua's company, like 10% or something like of the profits are going to help these missions and charities. He's doing all kinds of stuff, just giving and giving and giving, and it's really inspirational. It's some good stuff that you see him doing, his character, and it's part of why the third act is what it is. And I'll get to that in a second. But let me say this: one of it's like Isaiah's failure, his fall, if you will, when he failed a test. I don't know that Joshua knew that it was Isaiah's father who was going to be the truck driver that Isaiah would need to talk to. Okay, you meet the driver and tell him what you need to tell him and begin unloading the tractor trailer, semi trailer. I don't know if he knew it or not, but the second Isaiah saw him and he slammed that clipboard down on the ground and he went off, and he did a good job. The actor did of expressing his personal rage, in my opinion. He did a good job, in my opinion, of expressing his personal rage about the situation and how emotionally upset he was without overdoing it or underdoing it. I thought he did a really good job because two different times he's talking to God in his room, and he's really just pouring his heart and soul out. And when you see as it slow pans to the next room, and you see his mother crying and praying, and it's like tearing your heart out because of how upset he is over his father and what his father had done, and how he's learned so much from Joshua about the Bible and about how you've got to have your mind right and your heart right, that he understands he's got an issue, he's got a problem. And as he's learning to do this, as he's learning to just let it all go and really just forgive his father so that he can live his life and think about his father in a correct way that God would have him to regard his father in, and not be angry anymore about it. It's good. It's good stuff. But when it comes to the end of the movie, you know what? Let me build up to it. I don't know what it is. That first gripe I had about this is like a middle class kid who, yeah, he needs to get a job, but everybody needs to get a job. Like, what else is going to happen here? I'm actually glad the film ended this way, and that it wasn't some big test of, oh well, there was some girl or his buddies were involved in criminality, or he decides to try drugs or whatever. It's just him. You get to watch somebody be taught and believe the Bible, and there's just something kind of jarring about that to me because I just see so little of that happening anywhere in the world. And for them to actually just make a movie where that sort of thing is happening, you almost don't know what to make of it at this point. But it's good stuff. That the third act, the climactic ending of the movie, whatever, is about the company and about how he has his job now. He's a responsible man, full-time job. He's everything's clicking. He's even got his car. And I'll go ahead and spoiler alert say that one, because after he started paying his mother rent And it's another emotional scene where his mom raises the uh, garage door, where earlier in the movie you see him tell his buddy, almost at the beginning of the film, "Yep, this is it. This was going to be mine. This is what my dad said we would do. We would fix it together, but it's still here, along with all the other broken promises from my dad," or however he said it. It was a good line, but I forget what he said. His resentment toward his dad, his disappointment, his heartbreak, and now it's transformed into this spiffy car that runs and isn't broke down, washed, refurbished, engine work done, what, maybe a paint job, whatever, waxed. It's just this fantastic looking sports car, classic car. It's the Mustang from 1960, whatever I think it is. I'm like, wow, that's really something. It's not like we got the old Honda patched up or whatever, so you can have some wheels now. It is a nice car. And when he says, "This isn't my car," and his mom says, "Yes, it is." He's like, "How'd you do this?" Well, Joshua has a friend who does this. He uh, uh, remakes these old cars, refixes them up, makes them look like new. And since I have a son who's been paying me rent for the past few months, I was able to get this done here. And when she says the thing about the rent and about how she's used the money that he gave her to help him have this dream car in real life and actually have a car, his reaction and the way he closes his eyes, he's like gonna cry, and he just kind of collapses over the roof of the car. It was a great scene because he realizes how much more thankful and blessed he is to have Joshua, to have his mother, how indebted he is to them, how much it's about rewarding his hard work and the character growth that he has had in the movie. It's fantastic. Because the next scene is he's in his shades, and he's he's not rip roaring down the highway. It's just him cruising in the soft music, and he's got his car. He has a car. He had told Joshua, or Joshua's wife, who was also like a boss in the company, who's always around uh, talking to people, secretarial work, just making decisions. And the guy who comes in saying, "Oh, we got to be watch out for this other competitor. They're buying up our people," and all this stuff. It's like Isaiah was brought into like the brain trust of the company just by straightening up and showing that he is able to take on responsibility. He had told him, "I'm looking forward to buying a car. That's why I got to do this overtime. That's why I got to work full time now." And then to see him driving that car, it was a great scene. He goes up to the uh, basketball court, and his friends are all like, "Oh!" You can barely hear what they say because the scene just fades away. It's just like, "Man, this light is yours." It was just a great scene. It was another opportunity. I'm like, okay, just like with the being late before or being tardy, now is when some test of a friend's going to want to drive the car, and then something bad's going to happen. That's just the way I've been programmed by movies and stuff. But no, he just showed his car off to his friends, and that was it. But the way the movie ends, I was thinking after the fact that, you know what, I'm glad there wasn't some stupid drama. I'm glad this was this was more about, like, if you were watching somebody's, not one of those rags to riches stories of how I made it big, or how I started out on the factory floor and then I rose to the rank of CEO in 10 years or whatever. Somebody's success story to the top. But that is like what you're watching, because what happens at the end is Joshua's competitors are basically gaining so much uh, of his usual customer base and his own suppliers that he's going to lose this contract that is about to be up, and he wants to renew it for 5 years, but some other company is saying they can fulfill this order even faster than him, and so It becomes a race against time at the end, and he had no idea to even try and do it. He was just kind of not at first, but then Joshua was like, "Don't want to lay people off. I don't want to lose this contract." But before he even really has a chance to decide, it's Isaiah who catches word of what's going on, and he's like, "Well, we can do that better than they can." He's thinking of the mission works. He's thinking of all the charity. He's thinking of all the stuff that Joshua does for people. Even more so, I think, than the fact that a couple dozen of the workers, maybe himself included, are going to be laid off. So it becomes this thing of, if we don't work harder for a couple of days here, all night through the night, to fulfill this 3,000 orders of sports equipment units, we're going to lose our jobs. But the way he goes about explaining what's going on, and we can do this, and he gets this little cadre of fellow workers on the factory floor. They're each. You don't get a lot of dialogue from them throughout the movie, but what you do get, you like these people. You like each of these workers. Let me read some of the names of his fellows. There's Dylan Cruz. He played Carlos. There's Jonathan Curtis, Wanda, played by Marianne Hayland. Cody's mother, Michael L. King, and just oh yeah, Todd, played by Willie Molina. You like these people, and so they work all through the night. And it's this funny thing of the guy who does the computer work controlling the robots. There's a little bit of a comedic back and forth, like, how did they do that? How are they controlling these machines? Because all they do is their normal shift through the day, and then they're done. They clock out for the night. But it's just good. It was just a kind of like a dash to the end at the end of the movie to see who is gonna get this contract, who's gonna stay in business and actually grow, who's gonna be able to keep their job. I'm not explaining it well enough, but it was. I'm glad that was the story at the end, the last thing that the movie has, as opposed to some drama of some trouble that he might have gotten into, because he gradually just became more and more mature. Isaiah did, spiritually, mentally, keeping his job, learning more about the Bible, learning more about what he should do as a man, what way he should go in. And the scene that was got me cracking up, and when my uncle said something else that I'm sure everybody in the movie theater heard, was when they make all the units and Joshua's not there. He's talking to him over the phone and cheering him on, like, we're going to get you everything you need, food, caffeine. We got our guy doing the computer work, and that was some funny stuff from where is he? Who was that? Who did the computer work? He's controlling the machines. Oh well, they're not giving me good info here on IMDb that I can actually see. Anyways, it was just funny. It was comedic stuff, and it showed a team working together, and how Isaiah could not. He's not only keeping him on he that's the kind of responsibility he has from where he started out in the start of the movie. He was able to inspire his own fellow workers, like, let's stick together. He like led them as a team, uh, even more so than even Todd, who was like the the work foreman on the floor in their warehouse. He's like, man, what if this doesn't work? And Isaiah straight up says, it's on me. This is my idea. If we don't come through, it's all on me. And Todd's like, well, we're with you, man. What are we gonna do? Like, lead the way. And so Isaiah does. They get the stuff done, and then he's the one who puts on a little suit, and he's gonna meet the truck driver, and it's actually the company representative who come to talk to him about what's going on, because their contracts expired or expiring. And Isaiah's character, he just handles himself so well, and the way he speaks to him. How about we make it 7 instead of a 5-year contract? Let's make it 7. And Joshua's on the phone. He can hear everything that's going on. And he's like, like, don't overdo it. And the guy just looking at him is like, Okay. Okay. So they updo it. They updo this contract for 7 years. It was so great. But the funny thing was this: before that, before that door, the warehouse door opened up with the truck driver, with the back of the semi would back up, and somebody would meet him there. I wasn't thinking this, but right before my uncle said it, I was. He's my uncle Joe was 2 seats down from me, and we're like, okay, who's gonna meet this guy? Who's gonna who's gonna meet him? Isaiah volunteers. He puts the thing on. The thing's opening up, and my uncle Joe says these words: "It's your daddy." That's who it is. I started chuckling, and I was laughing after the movie ended. I was like, I'm gonna remember that forever, because all of a sudden, right before he said that, I was like, oh no, that's who it's gonna be. It's gonna be Isaiah's father, and it's gonna be a dramatic scene of him confronting him and just telling him how it is. And but no, it was the company rep that he talked to. But I'll never forget that. Whenever I think of this movie, I'm gonna think of that scene and my uncle Joe saying that, because like, that's your daddy out there. That's who it is. But no, he had written a letter, and that was part of him learning to let go and forgive his father, and ask God to forgive him for anger for no reason. He wrote this letter out, like making peace with his dad, and but telling them how things are, and that he does think of him. But this is how he thinks of him. He's putting it all on God. He's putting it all on his dad. He writes this letter, and at the end of the film, like in the last scene, he gets a text from his dad saying, "I got your letter. We need to get together and talk sometime." So I'm like, well, that's a really great way to end that. And wouldn't you know, he he meets up with the girl that he liked from the start of the movie, and they're making chit chat because he's going to be going to college now, and it's just, you just got the feeling like, well, he's got his head on the shoulders now. He's going on to school. He's going on to the next chapter of his life, and that whole ending of them working through the warehouse, it it was so decent. It was so well done, and it was. I'll go ahead and say this: The Forge is easily the best thing at the movie theater right now. My gripes about some of the particular ways that, like the messaging, the way that it's pushed, like this should be, when Joshua says, when he's looking around at all these men, he's got a sword in his hand, this should be done in every town and city in America, discipling. And the thing is, it kind of bothers me, because I was thinking, in the Bible, it's the church that when someone becomes a Christian, they you study, and you don't just leave people to the wind. You're supposed to help build them up in the faith, because it's only the beginning of their spiritual life, you know. But this idea of discipling, the way they go about it in the movie, it comes off as something that, at least I don't see in the scripture, as far as the way it's done in the movie. You got the sword in the hand, and it's it seems like it's an extra biblical thing to me, in as much as there's no mention of the church per se. It's and that's a problem. That's a big problem. Um, but other than that, and me wondering what kind of challenge is this young man going to face in this movie, it was himself. He had to get over himself, and he did. And it's just such a decently done movie with decent messaging. And at the end, when all of his funny friends and hard workers from the warehouse are, they're looking at their bonus checks from saving the company, so that the mission works can continue, the charity can continue, they can keep their job. And like, it doesn't show how much money that Joshua was paying them for their unbelievable efforts. But yeah, it. But the one guy was like, he didn't even look at it. He just put it right in his suit. It was so funny. They were all funny, and they were all decent people, and it was great to just watch a decent story about somebody learning about life and doing well in life without slamming against the rocks of the world, and getting into every sinful thing you can think of. No wine, women, and song. No drugs. No sex. No political extremism. No, no anything bad or violent. It was just a young kid on the verge of manhood, learning to take responsibility for himself. It's a really worthwhile film. I hope it does well. I enjoyed it. And at 55 minutes and 20 seconds, I need to shut up. This was a treat just talking about this movie because it is a well done thing. And I appreciate the effort that was put into it. My little gripes about some particular things notwithstanding, the journey that Isaiah goes on, and learning about like Joshua's character in particular. And I don't want to spoil some things if you haven't seen the movie yet. It's interesting to see how Joshua's life came to be what it is, and all that I'll leave for you to find out if you want to watch the movie. Hopefully you do, and enjoy it for yourself without me saying every single thing. But I'm glad I've talked about what I've talked about. And again, before I end, I enjoyed the movie, really liked it. And with that, I'm going to end this. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you listen to all this, I do appreciate it. It's more attention than I deserve for sure. And we'll see you in the next movie review, folks. Take care.